Hello, hello. How is everybody doing today? Let some more people come in and then we'll get started. Thank you for signing up. Looking forward to going over some college admissions stuff. We'll get started in a couple minutes. Started at 3:02, so about one more minute we'll begin. And then people come in, we'll should just auto admit them. Thank you for spending your Sunday with me for a little bit. Nice. All right. Cool. All right. We got 10 so far, and as more people come in, we'll continue going. So hello, everybody. Thank you for joining. I am Peter Parley-Greco. I have actually a slide about me. There I am. So hi, I'm Peter Parley-Greco. I'm a University of Michigan Ross School of Business BBA. Graduated recently. Also got accepted into the UC Berkeley Haas School of Business through the deferred MBA program. What that pretty much is during your senior year of undergrad, you can apply for an MBA program. And I did that and was accepted. So I'm expected to matriculate. You choose when you want to go, but I'm thinking about going in 2031, about 5 years from now. What I do for full-time work is I was a National Army ROTC scholarship recipient. We'll talk a little bit about that briefly. It's not the main focus of today, but essentially what that means is I got the Army to pay for my school, and I'm active duty right now. And some little bit about me and my experiences with going through the whole, advising students and such. I've been doing this for about 3 years now. I did it formally through a company that unfortunately no longer exists, but it was called We Admit Technologies. So I started working with them, and I did that for 2 years. Beginning of beginning of 2026, right after that latter part was completed, I moved over to Leland, where I am now. So that's where I'm working with one student right now, in talks with a few others. So excited to begin this application season. But the students I've worked with in the past, they've been very successful. They've gotten into Harvard, Penn, Georgetown. I mean, 80 plus acceptances. You can see a little bit over there, but yeah, all over the spot, all over the place. So yeah, a little bit about me and what we'll be talking about today. So yeah, we'll move on to the agenda. Essentially, we're going to cover this in a few key phases. So we're going to talk a little bit about the foundation, what you're going to, what would be ideally for you to do before you even consider applying to school. And then moving on to the actual applications of like deciding where you want to apply. We'll talk about that. Then we'll do a deep dive, of course, into what applications are, the whole reason you sign up for this thing, the all-encompassing guide, right? We're going to do a real deep dive into applications. Then we're going to talk a little bit about post-admissions, right, with the timeline and all that, a little bit about scholarships. And then we'll conclude it with any questions anybody has. So yeah, I'm excited. So foundation. So this is kind of what you would ideally have accomplished before you even have applied, right? But it's not okay. It's okay if that wasn't done yet, but it's just ideally what somebody would have. So ideally what somebody would have before we're even at this point with the applications is a clear understanding of what they want in the long term, right? So like just an idea of what it is you want to do, what it is you want to not just necessarily study in college, but what is it you want to do long term? Do you want to be a teacher long term? Do you want to go into engineering long term? Just having an idea, it gives you some motivation to actually want to do well in school. So just having that core concept of having an understanding of where you want to go is really important, and it will be very helpful for the application process. Ideally, you would also have high grades in rigorous courses. It depends on where you're applying, of course. If you're applying to Harvard, Princeton, these really top tier schools, it's going to require that the applicant has some high grades, right, in rigorous courses, honors, AP, IB. But it's not a necessity, right? It's if the school didn't offer that, that's okay. But what applications admissions are really looking for is the highest grades in the most rigorous courses available. So if they weren't available, it's fine. But just generally speaking, just something that will signal that they will succeed in the actual academics. The other thing is some familiarization with the standardized tests, right? So just, again, this doesn't have to be final. You don't have to have the perfect score at that point right now, but just having an idea of how the test works. Maybe you took it once and you just get a baseline for it. So using those free study resources, Khan Academy, just get some good studying there. And then the other thing would be leadership and genuine interest, right? So the application process is holistic. It's not just looking at grades. It's looking at grades and extracurriculars and personal circumstances and things like that. So having something to write about, something to talk about in those other areas is going to be super important, right? Having that leadership and genuine interest. So that's ideally what you would have. And with that, it would also benefit you if you had some cool relationships, right? So investing in your relationship with teachers and coaches, letters of recommendation are going to be very important. So having those relationships are very key, because these people will obviously be writing those letters of recommendation, but also be helping you on your application itself if you want to get feedback or get feedback from them on your essays and such. And you also want to keep track of everything you've done. Of course, you don't have to do this immediately, but having an idea of what is it you've done, the activities you've done, the hours, involvements, it's just going to make the process a lot easier for when you actually show that in the application. And within that is also quantified accomplishments, right? An example here is that you've coordinated weekly events for 80 plus students, 1,000 collective service hours, right? That's better than just saying you were a member of a key club or something, right? Just having some ability to quantify what it is you've actually done. And then I want to talk a little bit early, again, before we even get to the application cycle, about scholarships, because a lot of times some scholarships are even available as early as junior year, right? Like, for example, the Coolidge Scholarship, it's before you even apply for college, right? So just getting that on the radar, thinking about those national programs, those scholarship programs that are available even before you hit senior year. Those are really cool to look out for early on. And then, of course, when you get to senior year, keeping in mind like things like Questbridge, Jack Kent Gates, all these really big, really prestigious scholarship programs. Just keep having those aware and getting those application dates aware, very useful. I'd even consider ROTC scholarships. Again, this is not the main focus of this presentation, but ROTC is really cool because it will not only cover your full tuition and all that good stuff, but even if you decide to not pursue ROTC after the end of your first year, you can usually just walk away, right? So you'll have your first year fully paid for if you got the 4-year scholarship. You try it out. If you don't like it, you can leave by the beginning of your junior year or your beginning of your sophomore year. You had your first year of school paid for, and then that will be a significant savings for the rest of your college. Outside the national and ROTC program scholarships, I'd also recommend local scholarships, looking out to your counselors, teachers, community groups, anybody in your community that knows about these more local scholarships. They might be and likely are smaller awards than, for example, like the Jack Kent Cooke Foundation, which was a huge full tuition scholarship. However, the applicant pool is much smaller, making it a lot easier for you. So I'd recommend definitely looking into the scholarships, just getting that on the radar. So, okay, now you've got the stuff on the radar, you've got the things. So now it's talking about values-based college list, right? Actually developing the college list. So now it's like you're at this point, right? You're moving into your beginning of senior year. It's the summertime. You're thinking about, okay, where are we going to apply? What are we going to do? Most people, what they do is they go right on the U.S. News and they're thinking, okay, well, let's look at what are the top 10 business schools or the top 5 business schools, and then they're like, okay, I'm going to apply there. I would strongly recommend not doing that. And the reason why is because if those schools, have certain schools at number 1, 2, or 3, it's like, well, how did they choose 1, 2, and 3? You don't know the criteria behind it that went into those schools. So instead of that, what I would recommend is looking at what it is that you really value. Right? Do you think about cost? Do you think about the majors offered? Do you think about the location, right? Campus culture? Are you concerned about how much money you're going to make after graduation? Right? These are all the different criterias that you can consider before you even get to the point about looking at what schools you want to go to. So once you have a clear picture of what it is that you want in a school, right, defining your values, then it goes into moving on to like looking at what schools match those criteria that you develop, right? So for example, if you really care about going to university, if you really care about a high salary and you want to study business, then you might want to go to like a University of Pennsylvania Wharton, or you might want to go to a Michigan Ross. Those are going to come up only after you decide what it is you're really looking for. So that's the number one key. If you do this whole application process correctly, this part right here, the values-based college list, should be an actually pretty long step, because it requires you to think very clearly about what it is you want. And it's the whole reason why we do the application process is to decide what it is that you want. So having that values understanding, having that understanding will help you get through the application process a lot smoother. From there, then you can do some research, what it is that these schools care about. So I mentioned here, you can look at the common data set, very useful skill. I'll do actually, let me see if I can, here we go. I can share this tab now. You can do, for example, University of Michigan common data set. And this right here will pretty much tell you like the key information, right? So we'll look at common data set. We'll just skip all this stuff. This isn't too, actually right here. So like, right, for example, right, this will tell you what they want. So they'll tell you, hey, we want to see English for 4 years, math for 3 to 4 years, and the recommended. Of course, you want to be in this category, right? You don't just be meeting the bare minimum. You want to be meeting the maximum, because that's, or what's recommended, because that will help you significantly in applications, right? So this is what they want to see. Tells you, okay, do you meet the requirements? They also go into detail about what they care about, right? So they care about how rigid it is. They don't even care about your class rank. They care about your GPA. Your test scores are important. All of these are important recommendations. Interview doesn't matter. Extracurriculars, so you can see they're considered, but they're not the super important. They care more about your character and personal qualities. First generation, like these are all the things they care about. They don't care if somebody else went there. So when it comes to actually deciding, okay, is this the right fit for me? You can look at an information like this, like the common data set, and go into all the information about that. Oh, I just realized it wasn't shared. Now it's shared. Now you see it. Okay, there it is. So this is what I was alluding to. The total, like the units required, this is what the minimum, this is what they actually recommend, all the information here. And then also basis for selection when you're scrolling down, what are the important factors, right? So we talked about the academics being very important with the rigor of the school, your AP courses, IB courses, etc., your GPA, etc. These are the things that they're looking out for. So you can know right off the bat, do you meet the requirements? Is it weighing the things that you have? And you can kind of take a guess as to where you fit within this, right? So there you go. And if you want to go, for example, if they have any additional information, they have, something here like for the Ross School or for the School of College of Engineering, right? So like you have some specific information there that you can get right off the common data set. All right, cool. We'll switch back. Oh, let me go back to the share screen. And switch back to the presentation. All right. Okay, there we are. So then once you have that information all ready to go, and you have your list done, you're looking at things, you have some names in mind, a Michigan or a Penn or a Cornell or a Georgetown, whatever you want. Then it comes down to balancing it, right? So you want to have an idea between safety, target, and reach. What that means, safety, it goes off of essentially what your stats are. The stats refer to your GPA and test scores, right? These are the most important variables. And then also some of those non-important variables, non-stat variables like what we talked about. So for example, in Michigan, we saw it really cares about your character. How does your character, based on their common data set, is it really good? Is it not so good? Just giving yourself an idea of what you can realistically hit, right? Like, do you hit all those requirements? Do you not hit those requirements, right? So that lets you give up an idea of what's a safety school, a target school, and a reach school. So then you want to balance that. Now, you don't have to do like 33% safety, 33% target, 34% reach. You don't need to do that. If you want to do like 50% reach and 10% safety and 40% target, that's fine. It depends on your risk, right? What is it that you really want to do? If most of your schools that you're interested in happen to be reach schools, go for it. But keep in mind, you probably want to have at least some safety and target, right? If you want to do like 80% reach and like 10% safety, 10% target, that's fine. It's your decision. But I would just recommend at least having a mixture of all of those, not necessarily an equal mixture, but a mixture that you feel comfortable having. Definitely don't go with like no safeties. You definitely want to have at least one. And that's because if you don't have any, then there's a chance if you go to if you apply for all the super hard schools, then, one of them should hit, hopefully, but there's a chance that they all won't. So have a balance is what I'll say, with something you feel comfortable with. And then we already talked about the importance of skipping the third-party rankings. So, okay, now it comes down to the 5 application rounds. So not every school offers like 5 application rounds, right? It's not like that. These are more so what you'll see. Usually schools will offer something like a mixture between early action, early decision, and regular decision, right? So a mixture of like 3 of these. So you won't see all of these at the same time, but you might see a mixture. And it might be only 1, it might be 2, it might be 3. It depends on the school. But what those rounds are early action, right? Which is essentially you apply early. It's not a binding decision. So if you are accepted, then you're accepted. You're good to go. You don't have to enroll there if you don't want to. If you don't want to enroll there, but that's early action. The benefit to early action is you apply early and you hear early. But one of the caveats there is you're usually going against pretty competitive people, because the people who apply early action are usually those who are, have very good applications right off the get-go. They've been working on it on the summer. So it might be a little harder to get in during that time, but it's the time to apply. If you're going to apply regular decision, you might as well apply early action if your application is good, right? Because then there's 3 options. Number 1 is they'll either accept you, which is desired. They'll defer you to the regular decision round, which is okay, or they'll deny you right off the get-go. So I would recommend, if your application is ready to go, 100%, apply early action. If it needs more time, then wait till regular decision. Don't apply early action if your application is not fully there yet. The next one is restrictive early action, similar just how we're early action, except some schools, they're a little bit more restrictive with it. I believe like Harvard is restrictive early action. You can only apply restrictive early action to Harvard, no early action anywhere else. So that's the way restrictive works. It depends on the school with the specific terms on that. Early decision is a binding decision. It works just like early action, except if you are accepted, you must enroll. There is a way out, but it's a little hard. It's financial hardship if they don't give you enough money. But it's a little difficult to get out of that. So I would just keep that one in mind. Regular decision is how most people work. It's usually around that January timeframe, whereas early action is usually between October, November. But regular decision is usually around that January timeframe. Most people apply during that round. Standard accept, waitlist, or deny. And then rolling admission is after regular decision. And that's not given, there's usually a date between all of these. Early action, they'll say if you apply by November 1st, you'll hear back by March 31st. Rolling admission, if you apply after the regular decision deadline, then rolling admission is essentially whenever they get to your application is when they'll let you know. It's not necessarily we'll let you know by X date. It's more so reviewed as they arrive, right? So that's how rolling admission works. So then it comes to testing strategy in the Common App, right? So I recommend that you finalize your application, or excuse me, your application test score. So the score that your SAT, your ACT, what have you. I recommend you finalize it by the beginning of your senior year, and the reason for that is because you have time now during the summer to get a really good score. And it's, when you get to senior year, it's going to be, you're going to have all the grades get back up again, all the classes start, you have the extracurriculars go on, you have, you got to go do some coaching, whatever you got to do. It's going to get busy. You got to do these applications with the essays, whatever. It's going to get really busy. So I'd recommend actually not doing the SAT, ACT then. I'd recommend doing it earlier. If you need to retake it, then, it's just something you need to do. But preferably you won't have to, because you'll get a great score now. Many schools super score, so it depends on the school. Sometimes they'll just say, it has to be one time go. Other times they may say you can merge both of them. Depends on the school. But just keep that one in mind for your testing strategy. And then when it comes to the application, when you're looking at those schools, right? If the schools offer test optional, I would only recommend taking it, going test optional, if your scores, and you've tried really hard on your scores, you gave it your best, are below and significantly below the school's average. So you'll be able to see, what the school's averages are. Again, we looked at the common data set. That's where you can get that information. If they're significantly below that, then I would go test optional if it's available. If it's not available, then it's just a risk you have to take. Hopefully your GPA will be significantly better. The way that works is, if your test score is not too good, but your GPA is better, that can help you, but it'll balance each other out, and vice versa. If your GPA is not too good, your high test score will help you out. But again, it's just something you've got to do to demonstrate academic rigor that you can succeed. When it comes to the Common App, right? So the Common App essentially is going to be your one-stop shop for most applications. It opens up in a couple weeks, August 1st. And essentially the way it'll work is you go in there, you put in your information, and you can usually apply to most schools right through the application. Some schools, for example, like the University of California system, does not use the Common App. So it's going to require a separate application. But that is something that you can do outside of using the Common App. But regardless, whether or not are not even, you're only applying, for example, to schools outside of the Common App, you'll need a personal statement, definitely if you are using the Common App. So I would recommend also during this time while you're finalizing the test scores to also work on that personal statement. Think about some core experiences, think about some things that you think would benefit you in the actual writing piece. So that's a key recommendation, is just have an idea. You don't have to have it fully planned out yet, but just have an idea of where it's going. And then also complete the Common App as much as you can. So it'll have all the information in there, your basic information, your test scores, all that stuff. As much of it as you can complete, I would recommend completing. Again, it's just going to make your life easier come senior year, when it's going to be just super busy with all of these grades and also the actual application itself. Okay, creating the plan. So now again, you're approaching the latter half of your junior year summer. You're about to go into your senior year. At this point, I would recommend you have that school list all organized by application date and round, right? So do you want to do early decision at this school? That's priority number one. And then it just ranked by application date, right? So you have your early applications up front. You knock those out for, you're planning on knocking those out first. You have your later applications in that regular decision round later on. You'll work on those later, but you have an idea of what you need to do. You make the to-do list essentially. And within the to-do list, you also know what each school wants, right? So of course, the Common App is going to list all the things, but some schools may have additional things they want, like additional essays, or they may want additional, what they call portfolios or artifacts, things like that. So you just haven't put that all on a sheet of paper and have it all listed out of what it is that you need. And part of that is also sometimes schools want specific teachers for letters of recommendation. They may want a math teacher, they may want a science teacher, they may want an English teacher. Having an idea of, okay, I'm going to have this person for this school, this person for that school. So now you have it all planned out on what it is that you want to do, right? What you need to do come time for the beginning of senior year. Part of that is also having a brag sheet, a resume for your teachers and coaches, right? So putting on their specific recommendations that you want them to focus on, like, hey, I want you to focus on my leadership. I want you to focus on this particular thing. Giving them that recommendation list will just make their job a lot easier when it comes time for them to write the recommendation letters. And this is, again, goes back to what I said earlier, right? Start having the foundation, having that relationship with your teachers. The better your relationship is with those teachers and recommenders in general, the easier it is to be like, hey, I want a letter of recommendation. Can you focus on leadership? And they'll be like, yep, I know everything about you. You're good to go. I'll write it for you very easily. Right. And then they may even share it with you. So it depends how you want to work that system. But yeah, that's where it comes down to, right? So these are all the plans you want to have. You want to have that school list organized. You want to know what you got to do with not only outside of the letter of recommendation, but also just generally what are all the deadlines, is having it all laid out in front of you, ready to execute the plan, right? So now you're beginning of senior year. You got out of school, you got out of home, you show up first day, having a good time. I would wait about a week, get settled in, and then ask your recommenders, hey, start of the year, I know you're going to get busy. I'm applying to college. Can you write me a letter of recommendation? You ask this early in that September timeline, you're good to go. You'll have everything you need before you hit that October, November early action, early decision timeline when it comes to those early applications. And then now it comes down to, during that time, you're also working on your essays, right? So when it comes to essays, we can have a whole discussion on the essays. But what I'll recommend is that, these are not academic essays. These are reflective essays. They should be creative. They should be clear narratives that really show you, the applications committee, the people in general, who you are, right? If a sentence in there can, you can swap out the name for somebody else, or you can swap out the thing for somebody else, then it's not specific enough to you. It needs to be really specific to you. How do you differentiate yourself, right? So that's the key point, right? Be reflective, be creative, be yourself. Get feedback from other people. Again, going back to having those relationships with their teachers, talk to your teachers, talk to your people who want to help you, and then get information from them. But also keep in mind that you want to keep your own voice. You don't want them to change your voice and your essay too much. You want to maintain your voice, but you do want some ideas on how to make it better, how to make the sentences clearer, how to make the word choice better, etc. Right? Get the help you need for those essays, but keep them in mind that they must be reflective and specific to who you are, right? There's a whole bunch of stuff you can talk about those essays, but we can talk about that in the questions section later if anybody has questions. Then from there, it goes down to finalizing, ranking, and quantifying your activities and awards, right? So you should already, we talked about having that plan. You should already have an idea of what those awards and activities are going to be, right? Because you already hopefully put those in the common application. But now it comes down time to finalizing, right? Because now at the beginning of the year, you'll get nominated for an award, maybe you'll become elected into a new position, things may change. So just having those abilities to, okay, maybe I got a new award, where does this new award fall on the list? But having it all finalized and ready to go is super important when it comes time to actually execute the plan. And then it comes down to one of the last things to do is really file for financial aid. This, again, usually opens in October. It varies between year to year, and it may vary, this year too, but it's usually in October. And you want to get on that as soon as you can, because it's, treat it like an application deadline, right? The earlier you get on this stuff, the better it is for you going to be for you long term. All right, so now you've made it through the applications and all that fun stuff. So now you're hitting the point where, call this one probably like December. Maybe if you had a few applications, the regular decision round, call it February. Now it's just time to pretty much pretty much relax. At this point, you're going to sit back, wait till the decisions come in. At this point, you want to do some more scholarships. I'd continue working on those, maintain your grades, keep it up, the good work, but feel free to take a little chill pill because you worked you worked very hard. If you're deferred and you applied in the early action round, then I would, you would want to submit a letter of continued interest. You want to reaffirm your enthusiasm for the school. If you had any new accomplishments, any new achievements, awards, you want to share that with the admissions committee. You can do that through their portal. If the school, going back to the school list and having that research, if they had demonstrated interest, if they tracked that, how much interest you showed in the school, then this is the time to continue demonstrating that interest, right? If they say, they care if you show up to campus, for example, if they care if you had a campus tour or a call with a admissions, representative or something, then, that's the time to do it, to show that you demonstrate interest, because that will just continue to help you in your application. Of course, there's going to be some denials. There's going to be some wait lists. I mean, it happens to everybody. College admissions is kind of like a back room that you just don't know what's going on there sometimes, right? It can be a luck of the draw. Some people, they admit things for people other reasons, and we don't know why. But so just expect that there to be some no's. Don't expect to get in every school. But it's okay, right? Because at the end of the day, you're looking at only going to one school anyway. So just expect it don't get your hopes up too high. And then it comes time for you to actually review your decisions. Now you're in that April timeline likely. And then now it comes down to looking, okay, what are the schools I was accepted to? Which ones did I like, don't like? And again, that decision should be very easy for you because you spent a lot of time looking at that values-based college list, right? And developing that list. So it should be fairly easy for you to decide what school you want to go to based on, which schools that you got accepted into match your criteria the best. You can always negotiate financial aid packages. Even if they say no, you could always ask, and at least you'll know that they couldn't change it. But at that point, it's more so congratulations. And if you really are not happy with where you got accepted into, you can always still go and then work on a transfer application to somewhere else. But at that point, hopefully you'd be content with the school that you selected based on your college list. So key takeaways as we approach the end of this portion, and then we'll move into the question and answers. So if you have any questions and answers, start thinking about those questions, and I'll be glad to answer them. But now it comes down to the key takeaways, right? So again, this application is not just a one year thing. Yes, the process itself is over a couple of months, but keep in mind this is really all 4 years. Because colleges are looking at everything you've done. So you want to be sure that when it comes to the actual application itself, that you're demonstrating within it rigor, passion, leadership. I mean, there are so many things that colleges care about. Those are just some of the key things, right? Rigor, passion, leadership, maturity, right? All of those things, all of the activities you do, your letters of recommendation, they should all demonstrate those things that colleges are looking for. The second takeaway is to carefully build the school list around values, not rankings. I should add personal values. The whole point of applying to college is that you end up at a place that you really like. So if you're only spending a few minutes, a few hours thinking about, looking at a ranking list and deciding, I want to go to this school because it's ranked as number 1 or 2 or 3 in U.S. News, then you're kind of doing yourself a disservice because you could have looked at places that really matched what you cared about the most. And even if you don't know what you want, which is, a thing, at least having some idea will give you some sort of direction into where you want to go. So that is such an important task that I just can't emphasize how some people, when they want to go straight to the application, or straight to the college app, or straight to the personal statements and the essays, when they even haven't thought about, genuinely what schools they want to go to. So again, keep that in mind. That is so important. You want to develop a list around your personal values, not just rankings from a third party of whom you don't know anything about. The other thing is consider those local and national scholarships. I'm throwing in a little chip there for ROTC, along financial aid forms throughout the entire process, right? Again, that's your chance to make some money throughout that whole process. You want to use free official tools, for example, to like the school's common data set, to tell you, what the schools, not only what matters in the application, but also what they offer, right? That's the information where you can get to really make those decisions on your school list and is it safety, target, or reach, and also give you the official information, instead of getting from a third party or Gemini or some AI system where it might be hallucinated, right? The other part is begin the application process early. Again, we talked about it. Once you get to senior year, now is really the prime time, because once you get to senior year, it's going to be very busy. You got all these different classes to worry about, all these different things to worry about. So you want to apply early while you can, start the application process early while you can. If you are interested in applying early, it'll make your life easier. But just at the end of the day, having a plan, right? That's what's important here. Having a plan and executing the plan, and having a clear picture of, hey, these schools want these things. Let me organize these things. And then by the time you get to day one of senior year, you already know what you need to do with your guidance counselor, with your teachers, and you're just ahead of the game, right? That's where you want to be. And my last takeaway is, this is a reflective process, and it's a stressful process. It's a long process. But at the end of the day, it is definitely an exciting process. And it could be a fun process, because it's you're really charting your future for the next couple of years. And it's going to be a very exciting time. So that's the last takeaway from that. So I think that leads us now to the question portion. So I'll give obviously where you found me, right? Leland. I put an ad on Facebook too, so maybe you're coming from Facebook. But anyway, I offer college admissions help. I charge $60 an hour, right? As little or as many hours as you want, right? And again, I cover the whole help, right? With the school list, building, the personal statement, all the things, right? Anything you want to have, I'm here to help you with. So if you're interested in signing up or maybe scheduling a call and then seeing if it will be a good fit, the link is over there. I'll put it in the chat for this live stream too. But at this point, this concludes my talking portion of the discussion here. So I will now take any questions if anybody has any. I see that there's some in the chat. Let me pull these up. But yeah, so feel free to just drop them in the chat as I look at the question part now. So we've got 3 questions. All right. Why would you go to Michigan Ross Biz School when there are so many top choices to choose from? So it goes down to, comes down to my own personal values, right? So I cared a lot about a work hard, play hard school. I liked football. I also wanted to go to a place that had really good post-employment outcomes, right? When you graduate, you're going to make a lot of money from that school. So Michigan was one of those. I believe the average salary made from Michigan Ross is in the hundreds, about 100,000. So that was like, whoa, that's crazy. So that was my number one choice. I wanted to go to a work hard, play hard school. I wanted a place with football, and I wanted a high salary after graduation. So that's why I chose Michigan Ross Business School. All right, Sarah asks, what is your advice when it comes to personal statements and college essays? I have so many drafts and different ideas, but I have a hard time connecting them together. Heard. Coming from an international transfer student who wants to apply to a scholarship to study food technology with a 2.6 GPA, not the best GPA, but I want to take the shot. Yeah, definitely take the shot. At the end of the day, like you should, like I said, admissions is kind of its own game, right? It always plays, you don't know how admissions is always going to decide, right? Even though you have a 2.6, it doesn't mean that you're not going to get accepted. It's still definitely a possibility, right? So my advice when it comes to personal statements and college essays, Outside of the GPA, yes, take the shot, apply for sure. Let me see. I have so many different drafts and different ideas. So it comes down to priority, right? So your personal statement does not need to say everything about who you are. Okay. Like that's why you have your supplemental essays for you to apply. So when you apply to schools, you'll have not only the personal statement, you also apply with supplemental essays. So the personal statement, when you think about it, should be, who you are. If this was the only thing they could read about, what is it that you really want to show about yourself? And it's not like, okay, let me merge everything in my personal statement, but more so if you could think about a theme, or if there's an activity, or if there's like a few singular things that relate to who you are, a personal value, for example. Those like considerations are what you want to do when it comes to drafting your essay, right? And take it one at a time. Your personal statement again should be focused. What is it who is it that you are? What is it that you want to show about yourself, right? That is what your personal statement should be. Whereas those other college essays, again, now you can incorporate other things, extracurricular involvements you've had, right? So your personal statement, again, don't try merging things. Don't try connecting different things. Keep it focused, right? What is the one or two thing? What is the theme? What is the activity that really shows who you are? Is there something an experience you went through and you learned something and it led to a thing that's representative of who you are, right? Keep it focused is what I'll say. So don't draft so much. Just keep it focused. So, and definitely shoot the shot and apply. Okay, she asks, what would be your school balance list for a student interested in health science based on GPA? So it's not, going down to the values-based college list. That's not something I can decide, right? That is something you decide. That is, what is it that you care about? What is it that you value? So if you're interested in health sciences, then maybe you'd want to look at the places. Okay, well, let me find schools that care about health sciences. What are the programs that the schools that offer a strong health sciences program, right? Then you can look at that. But if there's other considerations too, like for example, maybe you obviously want the health science, but maybe you want to stay close to home. Maybe you want to, live in a place with good weather, right? I mean, these are all the things to consider. Like, for example, if you graduate from there, does it look like most people when they graduate from this particular school stay in the area, right? Do you want to stay in the area? Do you want to branch out? Like, these are all the things for you to consider. And of course, that's a discussion we can have, but it really is something for you to ask and answer yourself, right? That's a personal decision. Okay, Mamta asks, as per you, what should be the most deciding factor when applying to schools? It's the same answer. It's something for me personally, what I can say, what I cared about the most, kind of going back to the first question of the day, I cared most about a work hard, play hard school that had football, right, and that had good money post graduation. So those were my key considerations. I wanted a nice college experience, but I also wanted a school where I would be set up very well for success post graduation. So that's why I went with that program, and I'm very glad I did. All right, we've got a couple minutes left. If anybody else has questions, feel free to ask. If not, we can end the live stream a little earlier than 4 o'clock. At 3:45, 3:50. I'll wait till call it 3. Well, I will give another 2 or so minutes. If anybody wants to ask a question. Yeah, you got it. Here, I'll send my my link here. If you want to schedule a call, and maybe book some time with me. I keep it very honest here. I think people only need like 5 hours or so to get started. And then if we want to add more hours later, we can definitely add more hours. But I work by the hour, and I keep it very easy and simple. So I'll wait a couple more minutes. Anybody else has questions? So here we go. Okay, how do you think about Ross for MBA or master's program after college? If possible, will you attend or choose other schools for further study? So I'll answer the second question first. I am going to Berkeley in I'm thinking 5 years, if not sooner. But so I just wanted a change of scenery personally. But Ross for an MBA is outstanding. I know many people who did it, and it's a great time. So it's very strong and highly recommend. Very, very good for MBA, 100%. And while I specialize in helping with the undergrads, if you want to look at working on a deferred MBA application, we can definitely do that too. I was accepted. It's on my profile, but not only Ross, but also, or excuse me, they don't have a program, but accepted for an MBA to Carnegie Mellon and Vanderbilt. If you need help with schools like that for deferred MBA applications, it's the same thing pretty much. But yeah, I specialize with the undergrads. All right. As an international student who has a bachelor's degree in health science and wanting to develop a master's outside of health science, it really comes down to it again on the why. Like, why do you want to divert? What interests you, right? What do you care about? But having a clear why is going to be the most important thing. That should be your strategy. It's like, what is it that you want? Why do you want it? And being very clear about that. That's how you'll get what you want. Communicating that to admissions. Do you use AI on application documents? You can, right? And can you give some tools? Chat GPT, Gemini, Claude, right? The classic. You can, right? It's your choice to use application AI. I like to use AI. Schools may ask if you use AI to disclose it, then of course you just have to disclose it. But yeah, AI can be useful for sure. Definitely, I think it's more useful not in the essays portion. I would use AI in the research portion. Again, going back to that values college list, if you really care about, for example, schools that you'll make a lot of money post graduation, then you should use AI and Gemini to help you look into that. So I would definitely use tools like that for sure. Because you can just ask Gemini, hey Gemini, give me the top MBA programs, rank them by expected salary post graduation based off of their employment reports, and then boom, you've your research is done. All right. We have any other questions? Is paid summer internship for 2 weeks, writing internship for use for admission with a student interested in health science. It could be. It could be. It depends. I don't know. I'd have to, we'd have to have that conversation to really help you out. But it could be. Better if what I'd say is put down on your application whatever is most relevant to you and what you believe is most meaningful to yourself, not necessarily from the perspective of admissions, but what is it that you value the most, what you care about the most, and that's what I would put uh, on your application. You got it, she. Do you have experience preparing for SAT, GRE, GMAT? So when it comes to the actual like my offering, I don't uh, help with the SAT or the GRE or the GMAT. Um, I that's not my focus. My focus is on your entire application, your essays, things like that. What I would recommend if you need help on that stuff for GRE, I like GregMat. I used GregMat. I didn't take the GMAT, and for SAT, I would use Khan Academy because it's free. All right. Do you encounter any difficulties in application for schools? Um, not depends how you define difficult, but no. How do you mean by difficulties? Um, I'm not sure what you mean. I never encounter like technical difficulties or how do you mean difficulties? All right. I'll leave it to the 4 o'clock mark. If anybody else has questions, we'll go until 4 o'clock. How do you think about the price and live expenditure in Ross and Michigan? Is it high or low for studies in live? Life. The price of life. Okay. Ann Arbor is expensive. So University of Michigan is in Ann Arbor, a little expensive. It's not crazy expensive, but it's definitely pricey. Depends where you go to. So I would say it's a little on the pricier side, um, like in terms of housing and such. But it's manageable. As for studies, if you're in state, it's great. If you're out of state, it's very expensive. But if you're in state, it's really good. All right, we'll give it 5 more minutes. Anybody has any last questions? I'm not really good at speaking English. I know that you speak really fluently here. How'd you do that? Born in the U.S. from New Jersey. If you are an international student, which seems like it, and you're applying, internationally, then of course I can assist with that too. It's the same process, slightly different, but it's the same questions that they're asking and same information. So I think the only thing you'll need to do is take an English test, and you'll need to show that you can speak, or you can at least read English. So, but yeah, I can definitely assist even with international applications for sure. Oh, yep, I was born in Taiwan. I was in Taiwan. I was in Taipei and no, just Taipei. Beautiful, beautiful place. Great food. Very, really good food. All right, we'll give it 3 more minutes, then we'll call it a day. Thank you again for spending time with me, everybody. I really appreciate it. And yeah, I'm glad to assist you, glad to help. If you would like to get started, like to work with me, I'd love to work with you. Okay, two more questions. If I get rejected from school, is it possible to apply again? Yes, it is possible to apply again. If you get rejected and you want to apply, to transfer, for example, you can always apply to transfer. So yes, you can. It is possible to apply again if needed, if desired as well. One last question for today's session: let me answer this first one first. Will the former application influence the next one? No. Usually not. No. How do one filter out the why and what of master's program to pursue? Yes, it could. Salary could be an initiative motive. Just be careful about how you communicate that to admissions. It's like, I wouldn't say to admissions, like, I want to go here because I make a lot of money. Like I wouldn't communicate that. That's more of to help you decide where you want to go. And what you want to go there for. So maybe, what empowers the high salary? Is it the fact that this school has a lot of, what do you call it? If you go to this school, the technology is really great, programming. So with that programming, they, want to, that's how you make money, by the technology program. Then you say, I want to go because of this program. This technology program is not offered anywhere else. That would be your communication, not communicating the money per se, right? That's how I would phrase it. All right. Well, we're about to hit the 4 o'clock mark. I'll answer this last question, and then we'll call it a day. You got it, man. You got it. So, does Michigan provide language sessions for international students who are eager to boost their language abilities? Yes. However, you should have you should have a level of fluency Like it seems like you can message well, right? You can read well, write well. So you need to have some level of fluency. But yes, there are, and that's true not just for the University of Michigan, but that's true for anywhere. There's definitely always, especially anywhere in the U.S., there's always opportunities for you to learn the language better and improve. So anyway, look, I appreciate you again. Thank you for coming out. If you'd like to work with me, I'll resend the link one more time before I call it a day. So here it is. Go ahead and if you would like to schedule something with me, and you want to get started with coaching, again, $60 an hour. All the information is right over there. But yeah, thank you again for hopping on. Good talking to you all, and I'm glad to assist you throughout this process. Okay. Thank you very much, and have a great rest of your day. Thank you. Thank you.